The story starts with our main character revealing that her marriage to her spouse began as a contractual arrangement. Then a heated moment arises, one that makes our main character's heart race, even though she knew she was being lied to. Yet, how did this all start? Well, everything starts in a rather confusing manner. That is, with our main character being chased for evading with 10,000 gold coins that belong to her pursuers. Although someone in the background tries to get our main character, Lacey, to stop running, she ignores them and keeps dashing away. Once upon a time, Lacey worked as a star performer in a secret agency that had flawlessly played roles for clients for over 12 years. I believe she must have done her duty so well that her employers did not want to let her go. Nevertheless, her reason for running away is unclear. There is no turning back for Lacey, now that her freedom is at her fingertips. Finally, we get to know why our protagonist, Lacey, the woman of 1,000 faces, is running away. It is because, for some reason, she has become a fugitive. She decides to escape by sea and gets on a boat, because it doesn't look like she has any better options here. Maybe one of Lacey's gigs had gone wrong by accident, as the tears in her eyes tell us that Lacey must have liked her job, the same job that put her into this mess. Turns out she had deceived the prince with a fake name and became a wanted criminal because things didn't go as planned and she got busted. Back then, she was dark-haired, as the picture on the wanted poster. The fact that Lacey's hair is now silver means she must have dyed it silver to aid her escape. Although she has boarded a ship to evade her pursuers, they are relentless and follow her aboard. They demand that every corner of the ship be searched to find Lacey. While she stays hidden in a room, peeping to see what's going on, she is aware of the search and begs no one in particular that the men do not come into the room she is in. Nevertheless, she could have chosen any other room on the ship, but she chose this one. Lacey realizes she is not alone when a familiar voice asks her if she is a thief or a stowaway. Lacey is surprised, as she had not expected to run into this person at a time like this. At first, Lacey is alarmed and can't even muster a response. So the speaker asks what Lacey is doing on his ship. Whoever this early Egyptian-era looking man is, he must be powerful to have our lead gal pinned to the wall like this. So, the handsome fellow's name is Khalid Seram Hartman, the prince of the Arena Empire. He had visited the Weldon Kingdom, the place Lacey just escaped from, for trading purposes. Her history with Khalid is a mystery for now, but Lacey had heard he was leaving town after signing some trade agreement. She doesn't seem to like the man and definitely did not expect to stow away on his ship. She sits there silently, feeling uneasy because she expects Khalid to turn her in to strengthen his ties with Weldon. In other words, she believes she is a goner now, and all her efforts to escape were futile. Khalid leans back, and considering the opportunity he has now, he taunts Lacey by calling her a criminal on the run. However, today might just be her lucky day, as Khalid seems impressed that Lacey was skilled enough to deceive even the Prince of Weldon with her acting. He draws closer to Lacey and asks to know the other roles she can play. Oh, her hair is black again. How is this even possible? She looks like a different person right now. Nevertheless, Lacey hadn't expected things to go like this for her. She expected the worst, but being the woman she is, she seeks to use this opportunity to her advantage. She tells Khalid that she can play any role as long as she is fairly compensated. Khalid, the prince of the Arena Empire, is willing to pay Lacey as much as she wants in any form of payment she requires for her to do his bidding. He gets up and puts on his robe while Lacey asks him the role he wishes her to play. Khalid tells her that he would like her to play as his bride, whom he fell in love with at first sight. His reasons for this are unknown for now, but it's not like Lacey has the liberty of making choices right now. Lacey wonders what the man's problem is, but as she delays giving him a response, he decides to make something very clear to her. That thing is that if she is not interested in his offer, she could continue being a fugitive or maybe pay him in kind for keeping her hidden. Surprisingly, Khalid is offering Lacey her freedom and a lot of currency if she plays bride, and she actually delays giving him a response. When Khalid moves closer to Lacey for the payment in kind, her heart races. But she stops him by agreeing to help him out. Things are starting to get interesting, and Khalid informs her that they will set sail to Arena immediately. Just like that, the woman of 1,000 faces got married, although for now, only they knew it was an act. The necessities are done, and the move to Arena is underway, but Khalid wishes for more since his contract with Lacey is finalized, and they are officially pretend married. What he wants exactly is for them to do what married couples do. Still, one big question remains. How did it come to this? In the next scene, the path to our answers begins, and it starts with Lacey before a panel that had decided to put her to death. Nevertheless, they addressed Lacey as Veronica Hillstate, the man who looked like the panel's head and obviously the one who gave the verdict, asked Lacey what her last words would be. Immediately, Lacey started speaking to respond to the man's question, and the room got rowdy. Then Lacey casually asked the panel's head what he wanted her to say before she started crying. When she finally got what to say, her words annoyed the entire courtroom, including the prince, who was present. Lacey asked whether love was a sin, declared that she just loved the prince, and the crowd went wild again. Some saw her as shameless until the end, and others talked about the count not even showing up to Lacey's trial. On this, some saw it as a shock to the count, who had raised his only daughter to end up this way. The head of the panel, who was severely disappointed, asked them to take Lacey out and referred to her as it, to show how disgusted he was. As the knights came to take Lacey away, she gave her final words to the prince. She called him her love, to sound as caring as possible, and wished him happiness, while looking like she was genuinely remorseful. As the guards took Lacey away and no one could see the look on her face, she put on a more arrogant look. Although she wished the prince happiness, she knew she would be happier than his maximum happiness. In the next scene, someone was ordered to hurry up and go somewhere, which was confusing at first. Nonetheless, it becomes clear that someone had come to see Lacey in her little dungeon. The visitor meets Lacey comfortably seated, and she demands to know her visitor's view of her acting. Her visitor, some old man, told Lacey that her acting was perfect. To Lacey, that meant the end of her contract with the man, and she asked him to pay up. From their conversation, it becomes clear that the man was the count that the people in the courtroom were gossiping about, and Lacey was acting like she was his daughter. She was confident in all she had done, up to her request for payment because she felt invisible. Why won't she be? After all, no one bearing the name Veronica Hill State existed, and this was one of her finest works yet. Lacey's confidence that she would suffer no harm while working as the woman with 1,000 faces owed to how she was raised. Looking back to that time, she did not grow up with much. She had no father and was born at the bottom of the ladder. Surely Lacey would have experienced her mother's love, but instead of having her mother around, she was sold to the Hyung Sin-so at the tender age of 10. On her first night at Hyung Sin-so, she was asked what she could do by the woman who ran the place. And although she had no response, her beauty stood out. The woman who ran Hyung Sin-so planned to capitalize on that beauty when Lacey grew up a bit, but Lacey objected. She told the woman in charge that she was smart and good at many things. The boldness and response shocked her, but that was not all. Young Lacey pleaded that the woman look at the other things she is good at and not her face. It must have taken a lot for her to air out, but she did. Young Lacey caught the woman's attention, and the woman asked Lacey if she knew what a fun house was. Lacey's owner/boss actually listened to Lacey and used her to serve a unique purpose: to act. She was to act in whatever role was given to her. She debuted as a passerby who witnessed a crime scene. For that role, she dressed up like a young boy in the town, and her roles became more difficult from there. Lacey belonged to the Hyung Sin-so. She was their actress, and the woman with 1,000 faces was born. She played roles like an heir they thought was dead, the bridegroom's hidden child, the youngest maid of a marquis, and lots more. This was due to her exceptional acting skills that even stunned her at times. At the funhouse, Lacey's place of work, there were jobs like poison worms, body collectors, and some other random roles, but the actress stood out, having the highest reputation. Lacey never let her boss down and ended up becoming a sure bet for anyone who patronized her services. It was all going great, and she was comfortable, until that fateful day when the offer she could not refuse came knocking at her door. Lacey's boss briefed her on this strange job. Firstly, it required someone to be adopted for years. Unlike the short-term jobs Lacey had done, this surprised Lacey because, unlike her previous jobs that had obvious catches, this one did not. For all she knew, her soon-to-be employer was not focused on revenge or cheating, but just wanted her to play the role of a daughter. Crazy, right? Lacey had a lot of questions until she heard from her boss that the fee that was going to be paid to her was worth 10 years of work. Her boss knew the job was risky and suspicious, but still, it was a tempting offer, and could have helped Lacey clear her mother's debt. Her boss promised her that if she did this and paid off her mother's debt, she would not have to work at the funhouse anymore. After the payment, Lacey would not have to act in any roles for them and would be a free woman. The employer was offering her a way out of this life, and Lacey could not refuse, so she agreed to play the role of a daughter. Her final job was a little parting gift for the funhouse that created the woman of 1,000 faces. After that little chat at the funhouse, Lacey spent the next 6 years trying to achieve a goal, and that goal was to make the first prince the most powerful heir to the throne. Weird, right? Lacey's employer, who was also her pretend father, got her to the crown prince, and not too long after, she became one of the most well-known persons in Weldon. Although it took her some time to make her debut, because of some issues on the part of her employer, Lacey finally made her debut as Countess Veronica and became a big deal in the empire. Still, on the day of her debut, she caught the prince's eye, and he asked for a dance. A dance that got the entire hall talking and set her employer's perfect plan into motion. She promised to make the prince a king, as she was instructed to. As her fake love story blossomed, a new player arrived in the field, a competitor who must have been purer than Lacey, who was working under the alias of Veronica Hill State. This new addition was selected by the man who was Lacey's fake father, and she was to pretend to compete. In the end, as planned, the crown prince was taken away by the angelic new addition. So Lacey did as she was asked, played the blind, jealous ex-lover, and poisoned the prince's drink. This act turned her from the flower and treasure of the kingdom to its most evil woman of all time. Right on time, and as she planned, her plot failed, and she got into trouble for threatening the life of the first prince. The count, her employer/fake dad, literally denied her, which seemed to be according to their plan. Also, that was expected from him, since he was the Count of Hill State. Lacey was left to the law of the land, but in the end, she prevailed and anticipated a good end to her story. After 6 years, she was done with her act and returned to the funhouse to get her pay. For some reason, it suddenly felt too good to be true. Her boss, the red-haired lady, welcomed her back with open arms and sought to know how her carriage ride back was. Lacey was relieved and assured her boss that she had tied up all loose ends as expected of her. Lacey's boss then handed over a slip to her, and she had expected it to be none other than her bonus. Instead, it was something she didn't see coming, a wanted leaflet. Lacey trembled as she read the contents of the leaflet with her picture and a bold wanted below it. Her boss, on the other hand, told her that she had been double-crossed by the Count, Lacey's fake dad, the Count of Hill State. Lacey could not believe what was about to happen to her. In the next scene, Lacey called us back to the details that we might have missed. She explained that one might think she did not do anything wrong, as she didn't ruin the Count's plans but only overindulged herself in the role. According to her, she didn't do anything wrong. The Count had instructed her to carry out certain objectives that would make the Crown Prince rise higher and higher, and she did just that. She did what she was told, and although she was now seen as a wicked woman, she got the job done. The next thing on the agenda was for her to get off the hook and disappear. In Lacey's eyes, she was to get a happy ending after pulling the perfect national scam. Somehow her fake father, the Count of Hillstate, got his reputation restored, and she was supposed to get a cocktail and enjoy her curtain call. With all that behind her, Lacey had planned to go to a place where no one knew about her and enjoy the second act of her life. Nothing was to stand in her way, that was, until she saw the wanted leaflet. The reality of being a wanted person began to set in on Lacey, and all she could do was take out her rage on the wanted leaflet, which she folded and tossed into a corner. Lacey had so many questions. The first was, what went wrong when she had done as she was told? 5 years she had spent, and her reward was to be 10 million gold. So why was she a wanted person? Lacey's boss explained that the Count's reason for doing this was that Lacey was so perfect at what she did. She definitely knew a lot, and maybe the only way to keep her quiet was by taking her out of the picture permanently. Maybe they worried about her turning their back on them, but no one can tell for sure. Her boss shared the same opinion as the Count. Not the opinion that she should be seen as a criminal, but the opinion that she was so good at her job. Lacey got infuriated and asked her boss if she was even listening to her. Lacey's boss then explained that they promised to give her twice the reward if she would take the fall. Lacey was worried about her money and her debt. She suspected foul play and sought to know if the Count was doing this to cheat her of her money. Her boss admitted that although things were unfair, she had to think of saving her life. She had a plan in motion to save Lacey, but Lacey had to work fast. Lacey's boss had checked her into a ship, but she needed to get there quickly. That was why she was running through the docks in the beginning. Lacey's boss admits that the only reason she was helping her was that she was her favorite child. She desired to hold herself responsible for putting Lacey in this situation and requested that Lacey do her best to stay alive. The reason why Lacey's hair was white all of a sudden was that her boss was able to hurriedly disguise her as a woman named Madog. She was grateful for the last acts of kindness her boss showed her as they parted ways, but still, she had people tailing her. Her pursuers seemed a bit off, to be honest, but they were both interested in the 1 million gold coins she had in the briefcase. They were the Fiore children, her boss's children. No wonder they were aware of the reward money Lacey was escaping with. The men told her that she did not need such an amount of currency since she was going to serve the death sentence and die anyway. They desired to use the money to help the family out, but Lacey was not ready to give up her life for charity. As Lacey ran away, she cursed Count Hillstate, who put her in the position she was in by using her and throwing her away. As Lacey's pursuers caught up with her, she began to panic and believe her plan would not work. The men remained resilient and chased Lacey till she ended up at the edge of the docks. Her pursuers were aware that she was cornered and asked her why she was acting foolishly when clearly there was nowhere for her to run anymore. The men felt triumphant and stalked Lacey, who was by the docks contemplating what to do next. It looked like she had two options at the time, which were either to jump into the perilous oceans or to return with her pursuers and face a fate that awaited her. As Lacey stood at the dead end, one of her pursuers said something that made us understand that the Fiore children were sent by the Count to dispose of Lacey. When the man casually explained to Lacey that the mistake she made was that she acted so perfectly that she made her client nervous. Maybe if she toned things down a bit, she would not have been on the run. As Lacey stood by the dead end, all she could think of was freedom. She began to weep at the thought of the freedom she hoped for being at her fingertips. Since Lacey had already come so far, she wept because she knew she could not give up at that time, even though there was no reasonable option left for her. In the next scene, however, one of Lacey's pursuers confessed his desire to give up. It had suddenly started raining and made things difficult for them. Although the men wondered why it was raining, they willed themselves to keep going until they heard the sound of splashing. Lacey's pursuers followed the sound to the exact spot Lacey was at some seconds earlier, and she was no longer there. One of the pursuers scanned the area in disbelief. The showers that poured down had helped in covering Lacey's tracks. The other pursuer was surprised. He felt that Lacey had jumped into the ocean. He also wondered what kind of rain would stop them from spotting Lacey's body. It looked like they assumed Lacey had drowned, but that was not the case. The pursuers were frustrated by what they believed Lacey had done since they had expected more fight from her. While one asked Lacey, who was not there, if she would give up, but he was more interested in the 10 million gold coins that had just eluded them. The other pursuer asked an absent Lacey if she was dead, and certainly he was not expecting a response. Well, although the men feel Lacey has drowned, we all know she ended up on a ship, which answers the question of where she ended up. Nevertheless, the question is how she got aboard the ship. That was until the next scene popped up, with Lacey holding onto the ship she was about to stow away on. From the ship, Lacey saw her pursuers giving up and going their way. She had expected them to try a little harder since they were so persistent, but she was still okay with this. Lacey noticed that it had almost stopped raining just as she was on the ship and on her way out of Weldon's borders. From afar, it looked like some higher authority wanted Lacey to get away safely, but she did not read too much meaning into this and assumed she was lucky. Although she was safe and sound for the moment, she had lost her fortune. She could see it all sink into the cold ocean from her point of safety. If it were up to Lacey, she would have escaped with her fortune. But as things did not go her way, she did not let that slow her down. Lacey proceeded with her escape by climbing aboard with a rope. In no time, Lacey had climbed aboard. Although she felt it was too early, she assumed she had found the shop her boss checked her into. Things were going according to the plan, aside from Lacey losing her coins. As Lacey tried to catch her breath from all the climbing, she felt that things were going to go smoothly for her if she did not get caught for stealing someone else's identity. Not too long after Lacey tells herself this, she is spotted by an ancient Egyptian while she is dressed up as a man. The man raised the alarm, alerting the entire ship that there was a stowaway. The rest is history. Taking us to the present with Lacey and the situation she is in presently, it's safe to say Lacey got on the wrong ship. Well, she did not really have a choice since she was a victim of circumstances. So we all know Lacey ended up on the ship of a man named Khalid Serum Hartman, right? Although we don't know how these two came to know each other, we can tell they have some history together. We have to look into that before proceeding with our story. 2 years ago, when Lacey was playing Veronica Hillstate, the daughter of Count Hillstate, the Count informed her of the arrival of a delegate from the Arena Empire. As in, Khalid's people and the Count requested that Lacey, under the alias of Veronica Hillstate, make the necessary preparations to receive him. The preparations she made to receive this man required the help of a good number of maids and pushed her body to the limit, all so she could do her client's wish. As he spent his time on the day's paper, he ordered her to keep an eye out for Prince Khalid, who was the head of the delegation. Lacey assured the Count that he had nothing to worry about because he had her, and she was the perfect daughter. The Count didn't seem too impressed, and from the looks of things, she was overdoing. As if the younger Lacey would stop at that, she went on to call the Count a worrywart father and reminded him that although she had some pretty high standards, she always delivered. She requested that he take his mind off worrying and just focus on paying her, but he emphasized her having a good relationship with Prince Khalid. The Count was about to state his reasons for this request, but then Lacey finished it for him. She stated that he needed this relationship so that he could import goods from the West. Her reason for taking that guess was that the Count was a businessman, and with such a big business, an opportunity like this was one he couldn't miss. The Count commended Lacey for how sharp her senses were, but he requested that she act with caution because the man in question was not to be underestimated. He wanted her to keep her guard up, and Lacey, being the professional she was, must have always had that in mind. Later that day, at the social gathering Khalid was meant to grace, gossip about the Arena Empire was flying. There were rumors about his ship being covered in gold, something that was new to the Weldon Kingdom. Then there were talks about the Ironites having arrived with 100 delegates and arriving with jewels from their land that had never been seen before. Nevertheless, the main headline was the handsome Prince of Arena. As in Khalid, a lady was so focused on the man's face and body when the man of the hour finally arrived. Right on cue, if you ask me. The lady squealed at Khalid's handsomeness, and indeed, he was handsome. I mean, the blonde hair and the exposed abs looked like some first-generation Egyptian prince. He was the type of person whose presence could command an entire room, and he left the ladies wanting that presence. Among the ladies in the room was Lacey, who, upon her arrival, was incognito. While she assessed her target, she was happy. Why? Well, that's because she felt that she was also one to command a room with her presence, and so she and the handsome prince were going to get along. She saw the task before her as a piece of cake. Forgetting the warnings of her foster father, client, the Count of Hillstate, she was determined to show the Count that she was truly perfect. Then she discarded her disguise and went after her target. However, that was until she was hit with an unruly remark. Or should I say, an insult. Someone told Lacey that she looked like a dog, and it was none other than the hottest man in the room, Khalid Serum Hartman, the Prince of the Arena Empire. She sought some explanation, and so Khalid told her that she looked like one who was practically begging for attention. Maybe that was how he got to notice her in the first place. Khalid then compared that to when a dog wags its tail, which was not how Lacey was expecting things to go for her. What a first encounter to have. And now she was having her second encounter with the man. Before we go back to where we stopped, let's start things from when Lacey found herself before Khalid again. She wondered what Khalid was doing on the ship she had stowed away on, and wondered what lie to come up with at the spot. She had expected him not to recognize her because of the change in hair color and maybe because this man came across a lot of beautiful ladies, but he recognized her. Khalid expressed his thoughts about it being a long time since they had seen. He referred to her as Veronica and not Lacey, because that was the alias she used when they met. Lacey tried to deny it, stating that Khalid was mistaking her for someone else, but he was not having it. Khalid demanded that Lacey cut the games and asked her what she was doing on his ship. It was then that Lacey noticed the Arena Empire crest at the corner and understood that she had made a terrible mistake. She wondered if she had gotten on the wrong boat, although it was very obvious that she had. Due to deep thinking and Khalid's outstanding presence, Lacey could not think of any quick lie to give Khalid, who kept interrogating Lacey and sought to know if she could not explain herself. Lacey, on the other hand, was backed up against the wall, deep in thought of how her boss had gone too far. If indeed this was the ship she booked, Lacey could hear her pursuers chatter outside the room, and so she decided that she had to do something if she wanted to save her skin. With that in mind, she made a move towards Khalid and reached for his neck to drop him with the poison under her fingernails. She was surprised when Khalid held her hand and wondered if he did so because he knew she had poison under her fingernails. With knocking Khalid out no longer an option, Lacey attempted to seduce him, as she had no other choice at the moment. Khalid and Lacey ended up on a couch. just as one of the senior staff of the Arena Empire walked in. He wished to ask Khalid if he had seen the intruder, but to his surprise, he found Prince Khalid and the stranger in an unruly position. Khalid's kiss left Lacey's mind drifting. She wondered how things ended up this way. Surprisingly, with all the fuss she had caused, she also had spare time to wonder why Khalid kissed so well. The man who walked in on the two apologized to Khalid for interrupting them, while the guards he came with to take Lacey out stared in shock. Since one of the guards felt he understood what was going on, he spoke for himself and the others, saying that from the look of things, the prince looked fine. The guard who spoke up then asked his superior if they should set sail for Arena. He referred to his superior as Sir Simone, so we'd use that instead of his superior. Sir Simone was of the opinion that if the patrol guard said he spotted a mutant, then it was best they leave at once. Well, the mutant they were talking about was Lacey, but only the patrol guard knew what she looked like. According to Simone, a mutant had never been spotted in Weldon, and so he wished to report it to Khalid later on. Again, he didn't know the mutant was the woman he saw Khalid with, as in Lacey. Nevertheless, why are they calling her a mutant? Simone was thinking about letting Khalid in on what was going on, when the thought that he had just witnessed something grand slipped into his mind. He was talking about spotting Khalid making out with a woman, and from how big a deal he made it sound, we can tell Khalid does not have a lot of women around him. He confirmed the suspicion that loomed when he cried out in the lowest tone possible, a princess consort at last. He was still celebrating when the door to Khalid's quarters swung open, and Khalid stood before him. Because of Khalid, we get to know Simone's full name, which is Simone El-Saka. Simone bowed before his prince as a show of respect, and was surprised when Khalid ordered him to call off the search, a search he hadn't even told Khalid about. But Khalid did not stop there. He told Simone that there was nothing unusual on the ship, and it was best they leave as soon as possible. On this ship, Khalid's words were the law, and so he gave Simone full authority to ready the ship so they'd depart immediately. When Khalid got Simone out of the way for the time being, he went back into the room to have a word with Lacey. He mocked Lacey for looking like she had been taken advantage of, and he had a point. She looked like a feisty puppy, ready to bite. He pointed out that all that was not necessary since she was the one who jumped him. Lacey could tell that she was at a disadvantage here. To her, the only way out was to get the sympathy vote and kicked off some serious acting. She started to tear up and told Khalid that he had mistaken his ship for another and would have liked it if he let her get out. Her acting did not impress Khalid one bit, and he sought to know if that was the best she could come up with. Lacey was confused by Khalid's response, and so he explained that he had a hard time believing her excuse. This was because she had tried to attack him earlier on, meaning he knew about the poison under Lacey's fingernails nails. He then casually asked her if she was sure she wasn't a wanted criminal and flashed her wanted poster at her. Lacey was in disguise, causing her to wonder how Khalid could see through her disguise. How? This man truly is one you are to be cautious around. Well, at least he doesn't know her real name is Lacey, which is why he calls her by the name he had known her with, Veronica Hill State. He admonished Lacey to stop with the games and quit trying to fool him with a sad story. He assured Lacey that her games were not going to work with him because they knew each other too well, because of their first encounter. Oh yeah, where did we stop? The time Khalid likened Lacey to a dog looking for attention? Ouch. Back then, Lacey could not believe her ears. She felt she was not begging anyone for anything, although her intention was actually to get the man's attention. It didn't take long for the prince to notice Lacey was discussing with Khalid. She may have looked normal on the outside after she had eaten Khalid's insult, but she was fuming on the inside. Lacey had never stepped out of character before, but that was until she met Khalid, who was testing her resistance levels. Khalid apologized to Lacey for not being too fluent in their language and told her that the word he was looking for was a puppy and not a dog. Those final words were enough to set Lacey off. She was about to step out of character and told Khalid that his understanding of their language seemed exceptional. Due to this understanding, she was certain he was not going to need her to interpret what she was about to tell him. Lacey then got up in Khalid's face and told him that he needed to learn how to read people. Although she was stepping out of line and about to jeopardize Weldon's and the Count's plans of proper relations with Arena, Lacey had to say her mind. The first prince noticed the growing heat between Lacey and Khalid and stepped in to try and save Weldon's diplomatic interests. But Lacey was still sticking it up to Khalid. She wanted to make Khalid understand that if he thought she was trying to get his attention, then he was dead wrong. Khalid looked down at Lacey like that was the first time he had come across a woman who had stood up to him. Khalid was about to offer a response to Lacey when someone walked in on their conversation. It was the prince's angelic fiancé, who was part of the Count's plan. She pointed out that it looked like Lacey and Khalid were having some sort of disagreement, curbing the growing situation in the process. The angelic fiancé was able to smooth out Lacey's rude remarks, and Weldon and Arena reached a trade agreement because the fiancé helped the prince and Khalid settle. Later that day, at the Count's manor in Hill State, the Count commended Lacey for how she behaved. He wanted Lacey to keep acting hostile toward Khalid. This was because if she acted like that, it would help the prince's fiancé to be on good terms with Khalid. Lacey welcomed the Count's idea because she didn't make a good first impression with Khalid, and because of that first encounter, she disliked the man. The deeper Lacey got into her role, the ruder she became to Khalid. At one time, she referred to him as a barbarian covered in gold and took a shot at his traditional way of dressing. Lacey mocked Khalid for showing up almost nude for a banquet, which was not done in Weldon. Because of Khalid's way of dressing, Lacey asked him if he couldn't afford good clothes or just loved to dress like a savage. After all those rude remarks, she ended up on his ship and at his mercy, and wished she never said those things. She believed that she wouldn't have said all those mean things about Khalid if she knew she was going to run into him later on. Back to current times, Khalid expressed how shocked he was that Lacey was being so quiet because, from how he remembered it, she was never this quiet. As if things were not going badly enough for Lacey, Khalid reached for her earring, which suddenly started to look suspicious. Lacey lived in a place where magic was almost extinct. All the people who had left were magical devices that were hard to obtain and use. The rarity of these items left Lacey with no option but to use her usual appearance when she played as Veronica. The earring she had on was one of those rare magical items. Since Khalid knew about Lacey's magical earrings and tampered with them, she could tell that there was something suspicious about him. Lacey had done a lot to mask her identity, but once Khalid touched her earring, the white hair disguise vanished and her black hair returned. She began to ask herself how Khalid knew everything, and now that all the shades were out of the way, Khalid wanted to have a proper conversation with her. Khalid requested that Lacey reply to him honestly, and asked if she was a thief or a criminal on the run, although our protagonist was panicking on the inside. On the outside, she kept her cool and casually asked Khalid which one he thought she was. Unmoved by her response, Khalid got up, put on his coat, and made an odd statement. He told Lacey that a loyal dog would always follow its master, kinda reminding us that he called her a dog on their first encounter. He said something about a man Lacey was failing, and she didn't understand what he meant by bringing up this proverb. Nevertheless, Khalid went on with his blabbing and mentioned a name Lacey was familiar with, Daniel Le Pen Weatherline. This name made Lacey feel uncomfortable. She didn't understand why Khalid was bringing up the name of her target, as in the prince she played. Her thoughts were going wild when Khalid opened up about how he felt it was the prince who put her up to this. Oh, he believed the prince was Lacey's master. Now that's a good joke. However, Lacey smiled at the opportunity that had presented itself to her. The thought that Khalid believed her ending up on his ship was the prince's doing made her smile, yet she analyzed her situation so she would not make another mistake. She said nothing when Khalid stated that Lacey would go to the depths of hell if Daniel, the Prince of Weldon, asked her to. She understood why Khalid would have such a perspective. Meanwhile, he was willing to know if Lacey was willing to be exiled across the ocean on the prince's behalf. It's funny how a man so smart is oblivious to what is truly going on. Our lead lady planned to use this to her advantage, as she patted herself on the back for such wonderful acting. Lacey continued with her act, the best she could. She told Khalid that he had missed a mark because she only acted according to her will. She prayed that her act would work, as well as her excuse that she acted for herself. Nonetheless, Khalid was not buying the excuse. He felt this was just another lie Lacey cooked up. He also claimed that he had a good idea of what had been going on. To convince Khalid that she was indeed an actress, Lacey asked him to choose between two roles: the role of a stowaway dog, taking a swing at their first encounter, or that of a femme fatale. She wanted Khalid to choose the role he wanted her to play, yet he was more focused on the fact that she told him it was all an act. That being said, he wanted to know if Lacey being head over heels in love with the prince was all a ruse, and she affirmed. However, she made it clear to Khalid that she was not going to reveal who she was working for. Lacey's declaration pushed Khalid into wondering if that was how far Lacey would go for her client. She couldn't tell if Khalid believed her or not, but really hoped he did. Lacey added that she was willing to go to any lengths for her clients if they compensated her well. At that point, Khalid believed Lacey because she made it clear that she was only interested in the money. After a sip of his wine, Khalid told Lacey about a place called Surayev that was at the east of Irina. He described this place as a beautiful city surrounded by the desert. The room had various compartments, one with gold, the other with silver, and then a section for rubies and sapphires. He briefed her on this room because he was willing to let her choose whichever room she wanted. It sounded like an offer, and Lacey asked Khalid if he was hiring her and for what role. Khalid suggested that since Lacey had already played the role of femme fatale, she was going to act as the bride of the century. Specifically, he wanted her to act as a bride he fell in love with at first sight. It's not like Lacey had a choice, but the reward for pulling something like this off was grand. Khalid, on the other hand, with a confident smile on his face, raised Lacey's head and told her that he looked forward to seeing her perform. Since Lacey did not give Khalid an immediate response, he decided to taunt her. He asked her if she would like to play stowaway instead. He told her that if the question was too hard for her to answer, she could do what she usually did and try to dodge his question again. As Lacey still didn't give Khalid a response, he put in more effort into taunting Lacey. He reminded her of the move she had taken earlier and informed her that he loved it. Khalid then mimicked Lacey and put her hands around his neck as she had done earlier. He took the taunting to another level and even attempted to kiss Lacey as she had earlier. For some reason, being too close to Khalid made Lacey's heart quicken in pace. Before Khalid planted the kiss, he repeated his question and demanded to know what role Lacey was willing to play. He reminded her that she was the one who said she could play any role and was the same person who became dumb. Lacey, with no other choice and a very juicy offer, agreed to act on the role Khalid handpicked for her. Since Lacey agreed, Khalid pecked her on the hand and informed her that they would set sail immediately, because she had agreed. At the exterior parts of the room, Khalid's order that they should depart was echoed. After a guard had announced that they were heading back to Irina, a man popped up. From his attire, one could guess that he might be the head of the guards. Also, he wasn't moving around to prepare for the shop to set sail, but was calmly staring at the ocean's waves. However, that was until Sir Simone approached him. He shared with Sir Simone his belief that their departure was rather abrupt. According to Sir Simone, there was no reason for them to delay their departure because the prince had found the bride he was looking for. There wasn't that much suspicion until the man replied to Sir Simone. He happened to agree with Simone that as they had found what they were looking for, it was best they leave immediately. If what they were looking for was Lacey, then something fishy was going on, because we all felt Lacey got to the ship by accident. The waves kept swishing around, minding their business, while the men continued with their little dialogue. Sir Simone wanted to know how the man was holding up. This was because they were departing without the man having a chance to find his lost sibling. The man told Simone that he would be all right. He had done his best. Yet he got no response. Since he didn't receive a word from anyone, he assumed the one he was looking for was not in Weldon. Although this man might have been going through a lot, he was happier about Prince Halid having a princess consort. The man jumped for joy. Like a little girl, meanwhile, Sir Simone, who had already done his fair share of celebration, nodded in approval. Sir Simone announced that he had come with some more food news, which shocked the listener. He wondered what else Sir Simone had to say, so Sir Simone shared it with him. Apparently, Sir Simone heard a person named Lana might have caught a spy. The listener was surprised to hear this. He wanted to know if the spy followed them from Marina. Sir Simone had reason to believe that the spy indeed followed them from their home and hid on the ship. She was waiting for the right opportunity, and when she discovered that they were going to head back to Arena sooner than expected, she made her move. The listener was puzzled, but then Halid revealed that the female spy tried to seduce Prince Halid. The listener was surprised to hear that a seductress made a move at their prince and immediately sought to know how he responded. Sir Simone explained that since they all knew what their prince was like, he had her imprisoned. They all knew that the prince did not give women the time of day, and the poor woman chose the worst way to get to the prince. Wait, the prince had a woman arrested because she tried to seduce him, right? So that meant Lacey should have suffered the same fate for stowing away and trying to trick Halid. Something just does not add up here. But whatever the answers are, Halid walks around like he knows them all. As the morning came, the ship was sailing comfortably on the sea, and Lacey began to sense that something was definitely wrong. She could tell that. Things had been going too smoothly for her since the previous day. She sat before a mini feast and wondered why they were treating her so well when she had not even signed a contract. Lacey questioned if all the food on the table was just for her, and wondered if they had poisoned it because of its quantity. However, why would they poison the food they served her if they needed her? Think Lacey. Surprisingly, she couldn't even do that. Instead, she let her growling stomach think for her. She sat there concluding that a little taste would not hurt before she took a bite she did not regret. The food turned out delicious, but upon its nice taste, Lacey tried to think straight. She warned herself not to get distracted. That was to be expected from a con woman like herself. Lacey began ruminating on the events of the previous day. It felt suspicious that the ship departed the moment she boarded it. This caused her to wonder if it was some plan or a mere coincidence. That was not all, however. There was the run-in she had with the pursuers that literally chased her to the ship. She also wondered why ambassadors from Marina would leave Weldon without informing Weldon's authorities. Such a move had the ability to mar their diplomatic relations. Something fishy was definitely going on, given Halid's attitude toward her all of a sudden and how easy things were going, even though things were never so easy. Lacey was deep in thought when Halid walked into the dining hall. He wanted to know if the food was to Lacey's liking. Although she knew the food tasted grand, she acted like it was some side meal, and told Halid the meal was not bad. With that aside, Lacey asked Halid to join her for the meal because there were some things she wanted to discuss. Halid was intrigued and wanted to know what Lacey wanted to discuss with him, so he had a seat at the end of the table. Lacey was not one to dilly-dally, so she went straight to the point. She wanted Halid to be honest with her and let her in on whatever plan he was cooking up before she would sign anything with him. Way to go, girl. Not willing to walk into someone's turf blindly, Halid could tell that Lacey had caught up with him, and so he confessed that he had indeed cooked up a scheme. He admitted to having been hiding things from her. The revelation made Lacey feel slightly nervous, but still, she kept her cool like the pro she was. Nonetheless, that was until Halid admitted to Lacey that she was his goal from the very start. The confession prompted Lacey to exclaim in shock, but Halid ignored and went on to lay out his perfect plan. He told Lacey that initially he had not intended to leave Weldon so soon, but he had to since the thing he wanted found its way to him. He had a sinister smile on his face when he admitted that there was no need to prolong his stay any further upon Lacey's arrival. Lacey had her own sinister look on her face when she aired out her discovery that Halid planned to hire an actor from Fiore from the start. Fiore happened to be the name of her workplace before things went sour. It was also the place where her pursuers worked, but Halid did not know it was called Fiore, so he stared at her blankly. She was not faced at all by the realization, but told Halid that he should have just told her his plan from the start. It all makes sense to her now. First his nonchalance when he discovered she was Veronica. Then Halid hired her without checking her abilities. And finally, the fact that they set sail immediately after she got on the ship. Although the ball was never in Lacey's court, she planned on enjoying the game. Gladly, it all made sense to her now. Lacey realized that Halid had gone this far because he wanted the actress who played Veronica Hillstate. Although Lacey had figured out a lot, she still had a few more questions to ask. She demanded to know if Halid was feeling her out from the start to get her to reveal herself, and wanted to know if he recognized her from the start. He plainly told her that he recognized her, but then Lacey brought up the poison under her fingernails and her magical earrings, which Halid also happened to know about beforehand. When the final dots connected, Lacey got so upset that she bowed her head, and tears gathered in her eyes. She knew that it was only one from Fiore who got a magical device from their boss. Gosh, that sly woman, Lacey thought all these things were a secret between her and her boss, but she sold her out. Lacey understood that her boss made this move because Weldon was on the hunt for her, and she had no use for Weldon again. Although Lacey was a professional, the revelations were too much. Coupled with the betrayal by her boss, she sat there with a knife concealed, wondering if she had been played. Onward to the present, with all the cats seemingly out of the bag, and Lacey and Khalid seemingly on the same page. Lacey stares at the crest of the arena empire, wondering if she has made the right choice. The reality of the situation she is in finally dawns on her. Irina is so far from home. It's not like she has a home to return to, but this was her first time going so far from Weldon, where she grew up, and she might not even return. You have a lot to think about, Miss Lacey, and a long journey at sea ahead. Back at Weldon, the prince's attention was drawn to Lacey's empty prison cell. He was furious at the sight of the empty cell and ordered that they search everywhere for Lacey. Even so, their chances of finding out the lead lady are next to none, because the sea route to Irina was a perilous one. It was so perilous that the people of Weldon saw Irina as a place one needed to risk their life to get to. With that being said, no one was going to be looking for her at the Arena Empire. While the prince ordered the search for Lacey, the count watched from the shadows, enraged that Lacey disappeared without letting him know. Wow. That means he may not have played Lacey dirty. The Count's shock that Lacey disappeared unannounced makes us wonder if Lacey's boss lied about the man to promote her deal with Khalid. Well, he'd obviously pay more, and in Lacey's line of work, money was everything. Back at Fiore, Lacey's old workplace, her madame refuses a contract, informing the customer that her organization is not accepting contracts at the moment. The customer was unhappy about the news, but there was nothing she could do about it. Nonetheless, she refers the customer to another organization. It's weird that Lacey's boss has a magical earring on. This makes us wonder if she has always been using one to hide her identity. Also, there's a spooky stranger in the shadows who looks like he will be joining Lacey's little story much sooner than later. Anyways, Lacey has to admit that things are better for he this way, on a boat to Arena, where she feels no one will find her. As Lacey roams the boat, soaking in the fact that she's in exile, she finds herself in Khalid's quarters. The setting of the room makes her ask herself why Khalid wanted her to play the role of a bride of all roles. Her mind goes back to the previous night and their awkward moment, which she immediately waves off. Nevertheless, she asks herself why Khalid desperately needs to get married. While Lacey accesses the room, she does not notice the tiger tail in the background. It's a pity that she looks like she is in danger, and yet she is so oblivious to it. Elsewhere, still on the ship, Sir Simone hands a towel over to Khalid. He suggests that Khalid brief the princess consort, as in Lacey of everything after 3 days. A good idea if you ask me, yet Khalid does not agree. Khalid feels there is no use, but then Sir Simone points out that it would take 3 days for them to reach international waters. According to Sir Simone, after those 3 days, the ban will not be enforced. What ban is he talking about? Maybe they'd tell us about it later. But now, Sir Simone tries to get Khalid to tell Lacey about some misunderstanding. There are a lot of gray areas in their conversation, but Khalid's wish not to discuss this misunderstanding is vivid. He argues that Lacey does not even remember him, thus bringing up an incident from 10 years ago would make it look like he looked into her past. He was worried that if he opened up about this thing Sir Simone wants him to bring up, Lacey would end up despising him. This is the first time Khalid's sober side has been depicted. It looks like this conversation is really serious, to have Khalid looking this dejected. Sir Simone, on the other hand, is very interested in fixing whatever the problem is. He wonders what would happen if, at the expiration of Lacey's contract, things ended as they started. Out of the blue, Khalid suggests that he would seduce Lacey. At first, Sir Simone agrees. He claims to believe that is the only way, but then his brain processes Khalid's suggestion. Khalid thinks about his idea seriously. He feels it's best to seduce Lacey, so she would have no choice but to stay with him after the contract expires. The plan leaves Sir Simone in shock. How could the prince use such vulgar words or bring up such a wild suggestion? He thought, but Khalid is far from reason now. He is so deep in thought that he does not hear Sir Simone trying to set him straight. Khalid knows that for a plan like this to work, much effort is required since the woman they were talking about was no pushover. Seeing as he could not stop Khalid, Sir Simone seeks to know how Khalid plans to win Lacey's heart. This is when Khalid drops his best line. That's for you to figure out. He just dropped all the load on Simone, leaving the love doctor in shock. He feels he did not hear Khalid well, but then Khalid tells him that it was his job to think about stuff like that. Sir Simone's head droops due to the thought of the load Khalid has just dumped on him. He admits he is at a loss for words because he was not well versed in seduction or heart-winning. As if this task isn't demanding enough, this is the first time Sir Simone is seeing Khalid so worked up. For the task to be as serious as being able to tamper with his prince's cool, Khalid can't help but feel equally pressured. After a quick wine break, the men get back to their discussion, and Khalid seeks to know if it would be better if he had his clothes on while around Lacey. To him, it was either that or take them off. Another suggestion that left Sir Simone wondering what had come upon his prince. First, he spat out the wine in shock, but that didn't stop Khalid from going on with his rambling. From his point of view, although Lacey was into bold men, she might actually prefer someone modest. While Khalid was rambling, Sir Simone was busy having a panic attack until Khalid was unsure whether Sir Simone was listening to him. Sir Simone has had enough of the unholy suggestions and speaks up about what he thinks about Khalid's suggestion. At the top of Sir Simone's voice, he reminds Khalid that he is a prince. He also asks Khalid if he has been possessed by a demon, and begs him not to act so rashly. so he does not scare off the princess consort. Khalid is so focused on impressing Lacey that he does not even notice the tone Simone used to address him. He wants to know if Sir Simone really thinks such behavior will scare Lacey off, but then Simone nervously asserts that he thinks he might be right. Khalid is not a man who dabbles in uncertainty and scolds Sir Simone for bringing up a suggestion he is unsure of. He makes it clear that Sir Simone should only give advice when he is sure of it, and Sir Simone apologizes. With no other option arising, Khalid still feels that he has to do something about his clothing in order to seduce Lacey. He asks Sir Simone once more what he thinks should be done about his clothing, but the question makes Sir Simone uncomfortable. Khalid warns Sir Simone to stop shooting down his ideas and admonishes him to do his job as a right-hand man and bring forth ideas. Sir Simone, however, argued that he has never neglected his duties. Khalid kills the clothing topic for a second to discuss Lacey even more. From the way he sees it, the woman has gone through a lot. He makes it clear that if it was up to him, he would wipe out Lacey's troubled past. All of a sudden, Sir Simone steps up with advice that he deems wise. He tells Khalid that it is wise not to hold on to the past, and that all that matters is the future. Sir Simone's advice helps return Khalid to his normal, cool-headed self. He agrees with Sir Simone that the past did not matter. He confesses that it's okay if Lacey has forgotten him or their promise to each other. He confesses that it was also okay if Lacey did not remember the things they once said to one another. To him, what matters is that he has her now and is determined to never leave her again. He feels nothing can go wrong because time is on his side, and his goal is to make sure Lacey enjoys the finest things in life. The finest jewelry, clothing, whatever Lacey desires, he is willing to give. This is all so he can achieve the image in his head of Lacey being happy. Khalid is certain his bride deserves the best, and she is, after all, his bride. Elsewhere on the ship, the woman from earlier who tried to seduce Khalid is locked up in her cell. Everything looks okay, except for the vibe her cell emits. The prisoner looks like she is on the road to crazy and talks to herself about using what she has before her as an opportunity to pierce Khalid's lonely heart. Now this woman has become another ominous character to look out for, just like the man in the shadows from earlier. I can't wait to see how they affect the soon-to-be happy couple. Oh, our lead lady is still alive, considering how there's a tiger lurking that we have not been introduced to yet. She is resting on some sort of sofa at Khalid's quarters, and it looks like she is having a bad dream. How do we know she is having a bad dream? Simple. She's talking to herself, and it looks like she is in some sort of trouble. After a bit, Lacey jolts into consciousness. The beads of sweat on her face and the way she sprang back to the waking world show that something did go down. If anything, Lacey looks happy that it was a dream. Lacey does not get to process her dream, as shortly after she wakes up, there's a knock on the door. Wait. Isn't it Khalid's ship? Why is he knocking on a door that's literally his? To get into a room that he owns? What has gotten into this man? That's the same question Lacey asks herself. She asks herself why Khalid is polite enough to knock and open up to let him in. As soon as Lacey opens the door, she shuts it. Did Khalid come without his clothes as he discussed with Sir Simone? If he did, then that would really be weird. However, that's not the case. Lacey opens the door again. She sticks only her face out this time and asks the person at the door if truly Khalid had ordered him to stand guard outside her room. This was because Khalid was going to take a bath, and the guard affirmed. It's the guard from earlier whose dress is different from the others. For Khalid to charge him with this duty, then it means he is one of Khalid's men. Nevertheless, to Lacey, this man before her is an opportunity for her to get as much information as possible. Lacey can tell that this man is kind and asks him for permission to ask questions. He immediately tells her to ask away, and he looks so glad that Lacey wants to know stuff. Her first question to the guard was about the social standing of the women in Arena, compared to Weldon. Although the question looks a bit off, Lacey is trying to ask the guard how couples in Arena are, compared to Weldon. It's a simple question for him, so he goes on to share what he knows. He tells Lacey that in Arena, couples discuss whose last name to take when they get married, and commonly, the women end up as the heads of the household. This is a strange tradition to Lacey, since in Weldon, the men usually run everything in the marriage. Lacey acknowledges the difference between the Arena Empire's practice and that of Weldon. The first question was just an easy question. She had tougher questions in store for this poor guard. She then asks the guard if the prince will be in charge of public affairs, but he claims he isn't sure about that. Lacey then asks the guard if Khalid will be handling diplomatic relations. Sadly, the guard doesn't know the answer to that as well. As if triumphant, Lacey reminds the guard that he had said she should ask away, and the defeated guard has to respond. Later on, Khalid is done with his bath and walks into the room Lacey is currently in. He has his usual look of confidence on his face, camouflaging his true feelings for our lead lady. Lacey was waiting for Khalid's arrival. She seats at a table with a paper in hand, causing him to ask her if she was waiting for him. She asks him to come over to her for a moment for them to finalize their contract, and Khalid stares at her almost as if he is trying to ask if this is really necessary. They'd verbally agreed, but that was not enough for our lead lady. Lacey hands over the written contract to Khalid, and he reluctantly takes it from her to have a look. While observing the contract, with drops of water still on his body, he is silently troubled that Lacey is not even fazed by the sight of his fresh-out-the-bath body. Looks like this is his first attempt at trying to seduce our lead lady, and it has failed so badly. Khalid also wonders why Lacey has such a serious look on her face and is so keen on them signing the contract now when they could finalize it at Arena. Keep it cool, Khalid. Keep those emotions in check like the Egyptian-looking prince you are. Khalid takes his focus to the pen-down contract and reads it out loud to be sure they are on the same page. According to the contents of the contract, it was to be set in motion once the client and actors agreed to the following terms. The terms were that, firstly, Lacey would perform as best as she could in the role of a foreign bride whom the client fell in love with at first sight. Secondly, the client, as in Khalid, is to protect Lacey's identity from the Weldon Kingdom. Thirdly, the client is to provide the actress with any means of information she needs, as well as financial and psychological support. The fourth stipulation is the payment Lacey desires, and that is a payment of an equivalent of 10,000 Weldon coins at the completion of the contract. For this payment, she was willing to collect equivalents like goods or written documents, as long as they amounted to 10,000 gold coins. Khalid pauses at the sight of the fifth stipulation. It makes him feel uncomfortable, but he goes on to read it out nonetheless. The 50th stipulation is that once the contract has been completed, Khalid is not to seek out Lacey. That stipulation really stings our boy Khalid. And the final stipulation is the period their contract will last, which was unstated. Lacey tells Khalid that she was eager to discuss how long she would be playing the role of his wife. Khalid decides to avoid this question by bringing up a question of his own. For this question, he takes a seat, and then he asks Lacey why the punishment for her not being able to fulfill their agreement is not stated. Lacey confidently claims that the reason she has to state it is that she will not fail in delivering her role. Come on, she's the woman who fooled the entire kingdom of Weldon. Nevertheless, Khalid was not buying it. Either that, or he was trying to stop her from bringing up how long their contract would span. Lacey ends up giving in and grudgingly decides to add that as the 7th stipulation. It's not like Lacey forgot to include this important detail, but she purposely excluded it, hoping that Khalid would not notice. She then adds that should she fail in performing her agreed role, she will compensate Khalid by doing whatever he wants. It's funny how confident Lacey is in herself. She is certain she is not going to fail, which is why she drops this stipulation. That, and the fact that she does not have anything else to pay Khalid with, should she fail. Khalid thinks deeply about the latest stipulation and wonders if Lacey is truly going to do whatever he wants. Lacey then slams the contract on the table and demands that they wrap things up by discussing how long their contract will span. Lacey hopes that the contract does not span for 2 years. She feels 2 years should be the limit to prevent any problems from arising, like the time she played as Veronica. Khalid tells Lacey that, from the look of things, the Veronica contract really did a number on her. Her response to that statement is that if they keep it up for longer than 2 years, people will get suspicious. Khalid is curious to know what people will be suspicious of, and Lacey tells him that they will be suspicious of the fact that there will be no child between them. For a man as bold as Khalid, blushing at the sound of Lacey's comment about them having a child is not something we would have expected. He starts to cough all of a sudden, and Lacey wonders why. She asks him what the problem is, and while coughing, Khalid states that it was nothing. Lacey now understands why Khalid is reacting this way, and tells him that sleeping together will be unavoidable once they start a contractual marriage, causing him to cough even more. Still, Lacey does not stop. She advises Khalid to get some contraceptive magical devices in order to prevent a baby from appearing out of nowhere. And still, the man coughs. Lacey ignores this and makes it clear that she has no intention of having any unprotected intimacy. While she is blabbing, she notices that Khalid might not be listening to her, and draws closer to ask him if he is listening. This gives him a chance to lift Lacey in his arms, taking her by surprise. Seduction mode is activated, folks, and Khalid is going in full swing, with Lacey in his arms. He asks her if it means that things have been finalized. He then asks if they can now do what married couples do since they were officially married. Lacey was not going to be easily swayed. He demanded that Khalid sign the contract first, but all her suggestions fell on deaf ears. He asks her to do whatever she wants with the contract and assures her that he will also do whatever he wants from now on. With the position they are in now, I think Khalid has been able to run away from signing the contract and agreeing on the time their contractual agreement will span. In the next scene, Lacey is fast asleep, and Khalid is seated by her. All his machismo is gone as he watches Lacey sleep and strokes her hair. He confesses that Lacey fell asleep before they could even do anything. While Khalid watches over Lacey, she is clearly having a bad dream. She fidgets and utters words that make Khalid feel she must have been exhausted. Khalid covers up our sleeping protagonist while she is unaware of what's going on in the waking world, and her bad dream continues. For some reason, all the fidgeting stops when Khalid pecks Lacey on the cheek, hoping that she sleeps softly. It's morning and probably day 2 of the journey to the Arena Empire, and someone is begging at the top of their voice. The person being begged is none other than Sir Simone, and the one doing the begging is the guard who was asked to watch over Lacey the previous day. Sir Simone calls the guard Lana, which is a cool name by the way. Lana happens to be begging for a chance to see Lacey again, as we expected. He is not just a normal guard, but the head of Border Patrol. He's also a twin, by the way. But why is he begging to see Lacey again? Whatever his reason is, our man Sir Simone tells him that he will not let him see Lacey now, but maybe he will sometime later. An adamant Lana seems to know why he doesn't get to see Lacey, but Sir Simone just asks him to get up. Nevertheless, Lana is not the biggest problem Sir Simone is facing, but Lana's twin sister, Sana, is causing more of a fuss about this than Lana. Sana demands to see Lacey because she wants to get her blessing. In the shadows, 2 guards discuss Sana's attitude. The female guard claims that she is no longer surprised by Sana's outbursts. The other guard agrees with her, adding that he is also tired, even though Sana acts like no one can beat her when it comes to catching mutants. Sana happens to be so good that she was an unstoppable force during an attack on a place named Surayev. Sana's achievements made a name for herself and also earned her Khalid's trust. Nevertheless, Lacey has caused so much buzz that even the gossiping guards wished to see her. They had heard that Lacey's beauty was unrivaled and that she had graced some people with her presence. In the end, the gossiping guards were called upon to drag a feisty Sana away, but as they dragged her away, she still begged to see Lacey. Lana is left with Sir Simone and apologizes for his sister's behavior. Sir Simone tells Lana that he does not need to apologize for his twin sister's actions and adds that they just need to have faith in Sana. Lana insists, stating that it is only right that they conduct themselves properly, even though they come from a poor village. He claims that because they served the royal family, they needed to behave better and assumed that he and his sister were a great burden to the prince. Sir Simone stops Lana with a pat on his shoulder. He reminds Lana that he and his twin sister are talented guards that were appointed by the prince. He admonishes Lana to hold his head high always, having that in mind. Sir Simone is able to calm Lana down with his kind words that leave Lana smiling. Lacey eventually wakes up after a good night's rest. She is unaware of the buzz she is creating and just sits on the bed until Khalid drags her attention to himself. Khalid asks Lacey if she had a bath fit for a princess consort, and she thanks him for how divine that bath was. Lacey had applied extra effort in trying to wash off the poison underneath her nails. Again, she mentions the bath and claims that compared to everything she had faced, the bath was truly heavenly. Khalid expresses how glad he is that Lacey enjoyed the bath when Lacey points out that the servants were acting kinda strange. She tells Khalid that although she wasn't sure of what was happening since she could not speak their language, something was definitely up. Lacey then narrates her bathing experience to Khalid. It looked like the adoration of Lacey was limited to the guards, but it was not so. Lacey could not fully understand what was happening, but she sensed that the maids were showering her with devotion. When she thanked them, the ladies went into gossiping, and all Lacey could do was watch. She suspected that they were praising her and treating her so well. Lacey had expected them to be fazed or suspicious about the princess consort appearing from out of nowhere. Khalid seeks to know if Lacey liked the treatment and tells her that he had ordered them to take care of her every need. Lacey sighs in frustration. Khalid didn't understand what she was trying to say. She only brought the bath up because the way they treated her was draining. Prince Seduction has had enough and proceeds to offer Lacey an apology now that she is freshened up. Lacey can't recall Khalid offending her, and so she wishes to know what he is apologizing to her for. The way the man rushes to her side and leans in tells Lacey all she needs to know, and then he tells her that he means to apologize for not finishing what he started last night. He draws closer to Lacey in a bid to finish what they started, but Lacey pulls back. Lacey's mind is still clear, and although she blushes, she tells Khalid that she's not interested in doing anything with him unless they have handled all the loose ends. Khalid feels that there is no need for this as they had already done all the necessities. Lacey tries to contest, but Khalid persists, claiming that it's only two of them in a small room, which is why he can no longer hold himself back. Lacey is about to give in when she notices something that startles her that she calls Khalid's attention to. Looks like they were never alone in the first place. And Lacey trembles in fear at the sight of the third being in the room. It's the tiger-looking animal from earlier, comfortably resting on the bed with Lacey and Khalid. Khalid is unfazed and seeks to know if Lacey has never seen a teru before. It looks like a tiger, though. Turns out that the Arena Empire and the Weldon Kingdom differ in so many ways. One of those ways is the existence of magic in Arena when it had completely left Weldon. The magic in Arena is so rampant that even people possess magical abilities. It is one of the great feats in the Arena Empire that when a person is able to wield magic properly, their mana can be shaped into some sort of guardian, known as a teru. Khalid tells Lacey that he is the only one across the border who can conjure a teru, which is funny because the man does not look like one who can use magic. Khalid ignores his teru, named Zeppi, and assures Lacey that it will not hurt her. He wishes to continue with their makeout session after establishing this. He senses Lacey's hesitation and asks her if the problem is that she doesn't want to do this. But the true problem is that she wants to, but had never known that embracing and kissing someone could feel this wonderful. One more thing Lacey has taken into cognizance is that she could pretend to love, even with her eyes closed, but didn't know how to do so when it came to adult moments at night. Well, that's because she has never had one of such moments. Our protagonist, the Queen of the Axe, had never had an intimate moment with a man. This act takes Lacey's mind back to a not-so-distant memory from her time with her boss. She and some other people were being briefed about their job, which was to act. Her boss told Lacey and the others that although acting was their job, if they gave their hearts to someone in a bid to make their acting more convincing, it could lead to some serious trouble. She made it clear that their job was to steal hearts and never to give their hearts away. That being said, why does the ominous man pop up in the corner? Well, this memory causes Lacey to pull back and push Khalid away. She mumbles that it's dangerous, as in, falling for Khalid is dangerous, but he does not hear her and requests she repeat what she said. Lacey then lies that she said she's not interested in having physical intimacy without the use of magical contraceptives. Khalid surprises Lacey by pointing out that she already has magical contraceptives on her, and just one bracelet is enough to prevent pregnancy. Khalid explains that when Lacey insisted on taking a bath with 3 of her magical contraceptive bracelets on, she felt she was trying to hint to him that she wanted an intimate moment. It all made sense to Lacey now. That was what the maids were chatting about during the bath and had reported to Khalid. Lacey never knew that the bracelets were contraceptive bracelets, or even that they were magical devices to begin with. Now that's settled. Khalid then lifts Lacey up, intending to continue with the intimate moment, but she tries to argue her way out of this. Lacey brings up another excuse. She claims that she's not ready to do it like that and wants to do it on a bed. Khalid eventually drops Lacey, and she tells him that she wishes to add another condition to their contract. The latest clause is that there will be no unnecessary intimate moments. Khalid gets confused, but all Lacey is trying to do is prolong her chastity so badly that she is ashamed to tell him. She tells Khalid that she will play the role of the bride in marital bliss, in public, but she does not have to keep up with that act behind closed doors. She reminds Khalid that they are in a contractual marriage and not a real one. But although Khalid is unsatisfied with this new closeness, he reluctantly agrees. Lacey hurriedly adds the final clause and hands over the contract to Khalid for him to sign it. She also asks Khalid to come up with a name for her. He hadn't thought of that, but Lacey explains that she could not use the name Veronica. Khalid had expected Lacey to use her real name, but she explains that it's a secret and the only way she can protect herself. Khalid comes up with a name he feels is fitting for her, Neris. According to him, Neris is the goddess of the sea. Lacey just freezes at the sound of the name and its explanation, so a confused Khalid asks her if she does not like the name. Lacey admits she likes the name, and although she cannot understand his smile, she knows the name is not a bad one. Lacey signs the contract in the end, finalizing the contract. Elsewhere on the ship, Lana and Sir Simone are walking through the dark parts of the ship. Sir Simone asks Lana about their prisoner, and he tells him that the prisoner has calmed down. Zeppi had apprehended her and gave her quite the scare. Sir Simone suspects that the prisoner is using some sort of magic. He saw that as the only logical explanation for why she stayed hidden for so long. Lana apologizes to Sir Simone for not finding out the magic that had been used, and Sir Simone asks to know about the nature of the prisoner's magic. Lana apologizes to Sir Simone once more for not being able to figure that out as well. In his defense, things happen so fast. Too fast for them to determine what the prisoner was using. As they stared down at the imprisoned imposter, Sir Simone observed that she might have completely lost face. Nonetheless, Lana promises to go all out to interrogate the prisoner until she talks. Sir Simone, however, sees no need for that, because he is certain that it'll be the end for the prisoner once they get to Arena. Lana can tell Sir Simone plans to strip the prisoner of her magic, and as her cries fall on deaf ears, Lana agrees that it is a worse punishment than death. While other guards check the prison proper, Sir Simone asks Lana about Sana's well-being, and Lana tells him that Sana is doing okay. So okay that she even punched him earlier. She did so to motivate him as she tried to get him to get his act together. Sir Simone now understands what caused the scars on Lana's body. Sir Simone orders that security around the prisoner be tightened since they were approaching the border. Although that's the plan, it seems unlikely that they will deliver this prisoner to Arena without any fuss. It looks like she has some tricks up her sleeve. Nighttime on the sea voyage to the Arena Empire, and Sir Simone gets to finally, formally meet Lacey. He does the greeting as humbly as possible, and even apologizes to Lacey for the late introduction. Lacey laughs this off and tells Sir Simone that there is no need for this, since they had already met each other that steamy night when he walked in on her and Khalid. Lacey proceeds to thank Sir Simone for all his hard work so far, and tells him that she looks forward to being in his care. This declaration sends Sir Simone's mind spiraling. It's funny the way he reacts to this and then tells Lacey that it is he who should be thankful for her kindness. The man loses it and ends up blabbing about promising to never let Lacey down or take her generosity for granted. He also says something about lacking in some areas and pledging to improve, but then Khalid saves Sir Simone from himself. He reminds him that he called for him so they could discuss something else. The sound of Khalid's voice helps Sir Simone compose himself. It's funny how he reacted like everyone else on the ship when in Lacey's presence. Nevertheless, he is back to his senses for now. Khalid tells Sir Simone that Lacey has not been sleeping well, and he wonders if it has something to do with her health. Sir Simone then asks Lacey for permission to inspect her and proceeds to do so after she grants it to him. The inspection felt more like manhandling, causing Lacey to wonder if that was what Sir Simone meant by examination. From Sir Simone's little checks, he can tell that Lacey does not have any issues, but fears that the voyage is messing with her small frame. Lacey is shocked by the comments. Khalid had only told her that Sir Simone is the head of servants, so it surprises her that this man can also play doctor. Khalid instructs Sir Simone to make sure Lacey is well and asks if there is anything else they should be concerned about. Sir Simone tells her that there is nothing else for them to worry about. From the way he sees it, to him she looks quite healthy. Khalid is relieved to hear this. Yet while the men discuss, Lacey takes note of the fact that Khalid's advisor / the head of the servants, Sir Simone, seems very skilled. He plans on trying to get close to him because she believes he might help her with some important information later on. Fate works to Lacey's advantage, however, and she does not need to wait too long to get what she wants. This is because all of a sudden Khalid feels he has to go and check the ship's course. He charges Sir Simone with the duty of looking after Lacey in his absence and makes his way to the door. All of a sudden, he stops, turns to Sir Simone, and warns him not to do anything unnecessary. You better listen to your boss and stay composed, Mr. Simone. With Khalid out of the way, Lacey is free to conduct her Q&A session and asks Sir Simone what Khalid said about her. Immediately, Sir Simone replies that Khalid said Lacey was his bride and the one who was to become the new ruler of Sarayev. Also, he claims Khalid had mentioned that she was the future queen of the Arena Empire. Lacey seeks to know if that is all Khalid said about her, and then Sir Simone adds that Khalid had said something about falling in love with her at first sight. Lacey still is not satisfied and seeks to know more. Sir Simone then informs her that Khalid said she was still unfamiliar with their language, and she enjoyed red wine. He then voluntarily tells Lacey that Khalid urged them to cook meals of the highest quality, since that is something Lacey happens to fancy. Lacey was taken aback by this statement, But Sir Simone misunderstood and stated that Khalid ordered them to make appetizing and nutritious dishes. Lacey is slightly enraged that Khalid wants her to eat so much, but she doesn't say it out loud. Sir Simone, being the smart man he is, can tell that he might have upset Lacey and apologizes to Lacey on behalf of Khalid. He realizes that he might have said something wrong. Lacey tells him that she honestly cannot make sense of the situation she is in, which Sir Simone needs her to interpret. She tells him that she is surprised no one is asking questions about her. I mean, she did just appear on the ship from nowhere. Sir Simone explains that the reason why no one has asked her anything is that the guard who spotted her when she got on the ship does not recognize her face. That and the fact that most of the crew does not speak the Weldonian language. Since they didn't speak the language, they didn't know about what went down in Weldon and about the wanted poster. Lacey is shocked that Sir Simone knows about the Veronica Act. She recalls her previous encounter with Khalid and now understands that since Sir Simone is more fluent than Khalid in speaking 10 Weldonian tongues, he is aware of all the horrible things he said to Khalid back then. She suddenly feels uneasy and asks Sir Simone if he is all right with everything, even when he knows who she is. Sir Simone assures Lacey that he is extremely okay with everything and is willing to prove his sincerity through actions if need be. Lacey capitalizes on this opportunity by thanking Sir Simone for his loyalty speech and repeats that she looks forward to being under his care. Again, those words shake Sir Simone, causing Lacey to ask him if he is all right. Sir Simone assures Lacey that he is all right and wishes to know if there is anything else she needs assistance with. Her bracelets come to mind, so she asks Khalid if the bracelets are used by people in Arena regularly. Sir Simone breaks it to Lacey that the bracelets were not commonly used, and the only one on the ship who used them was Khalid. She asks if Khalid treasures the bracelets she has on her, and although Sir Simone doesn't know Lacey's reason for asking, he tells her that Khalid treasures the bracelets. As Lacey stares at the bracelets, she recalls that Khalid had a couple of these bracelets on, and wonders if he used the magical contraceptives on others. Well, that's all for now. Lacey and Khalid will return to give us all the answers to our many questions, and about the prisoner and the ominous man in the shadows of Weldon. Oh, they are about to debut. And I assure you it'll be gran, so comment Lacey below for the next part. Until next time, ciao.